Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be my review of Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 5 of the Stormlight Archive. I'm going to see how long I can hold this book up for because I have just previously reviewed Rhythm of War and Dread Knight, and now my arm is tired of holding massive heavy books up, so we'll see what happens with this one. Hopefully I can hold it up for long enough. It feels lighter than the other two did. So Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. This is epic fantasy, high fantasy, really the same fantasy genre, subgenres, etc. that go along with the Stormlight Archive, all the other books that have been in this series. Wind and Truth is book 5 of the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, a highly anticipated and rather divisive book. As it is a resolution to one of the most prominent fantasy series of our time, many people have been waiting to see and wondering if Sanderson could complete the series and truly give something satisfying with this book. It is not at the end of the series, but it is the end of an arc. And so that's kind of what the setup in terms of people's excitement towards this book really was. Besides the fact that it's Sanderson, besides the fact that it's Stormlight, they're really wondering how he would choose to close this first arc of the Stormlight Archive, knowing full well that this is not the end of the series, it is the close of the first chunk, the first half. Before I get into my review here, I just quickly like to say, welcome to an Erudite Adventure. I am T. If you are liking what you're seeing from us, please like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, so to start out, well, first off, before I even start out, I have a lot of notes that I wrote down. I think close to 2 pages or something of notes. Basically double the amount that I have for most other books. And so this might be a little bit of a longer review. I kind of hope not, because I don't want to hold this book up that long. But I do have a lot to say about this book, and I'm not going to say everything that there is to be said. But to start out, I will say that I myself am a bit conflicted on this book. I feel that it contains a great story, one of the best stories in the series, in the Stormlight Archive series, but at the same time, I don't know where my enjoyment lies in comparison with the others. I can acknowledge that there's a great story contained within, but also that I didn't enjoy it as much in a lot of aspects, in a lot of ways, as I did the other ones. I loved it and was disappointed at the same time. I've said it for a while now that Sanderson no longer writes for me. His newer works, basically about the time of the release of Oathbringer. Anything after Oathbringer I didn't really care for. Anything before Oathbringer I really loved pretty much. That's kind of, there's more nuance than that, but that's kind of a broad generic look at it. And this is after Oathbringer, and so it's kind of one of what I call his newer works. His books rarely fit my tastes perfectly anymore, and I do think that applies to this book as well. The storylines here are, for the most part, really interesting in terms of what's going on. Of course, the setup is automatically intriguing. 10 days in which every day is packed full of happenings, and have to be in order to tell this story. We're at war, and we're trying to save the world. How do humans face a god? It's not an easy task for our main characters, or for Sanderson to write. And it's very clear that he put a lot of thought into making it work out, into figuring out how to make this story work out. I can't really fully break it down into differing storylines, but I can a little bit. Basically I can follow some of our main characters a little bit. Kaladin and Szeth held my interest the most, while also bothering me. But the quest to cleanse Shinovar is a really fascinating story. Szeth's story is well fleshed out, and we do get to see why he is the way he is. That's important. This is Szeth's book. We get Szeth flashbacks in this book. I love seeing stories of characters facing trials. That's one of my favorite tropes, I guess, if you want to call it that, in storytelling, is when people are doing training or when they're facing trials of some sort in order to pass a test. It's just one of my favorite aspects of favorite tropes in storytelling. So I love seeing it here, and that's exactly what this was. Kaladin is here as well, and is almost in a way almost restarting his character development from the beginning, but not as he was in The Way of Kings, but rather a new version of his character. So it's not repetitive in that way, but it is kind of interesting to see a new Kaladin going from step one, restarting from step one. That's kind of really interesting to see in a lot of ways. And again, that's what I'm saying by there's a lot of good storytelling, or the story that's contained within this book is incredible. Dalinar and Navani's storyline is interesting, but I found it to be extremely boring. And that's weird to me, because so much of this type of stuff in previous books was fascinating to me. I loved learning about it, but in this one, I found it to be boring to read. How it affects things and what we are learning through this story works extremely well, and I do feel like Sanderson does a good job at completing the character arc that Dalinar has been on since book 1. So that's all good stuff. And then of course Gavinor is that storyline is a hard one to take. There's so much that's happened to Gav, and it's that's a hard part of the storyline for sure. Quite frankly, I used to find Renarin a fascinating character, but I haven't really since about book 2. I haven't cared for his character at all since about book 2. There's been moments in books 3 and 4, but really in book 5 I didn't care for him at all. I didn't care about his storyline at all in this book. I find that he's gone from an interesting character full of his own flaws and strengths to kind of a caricature that unfortunately adds nothing to the story anymore. Yasna has a bit of an interesting storyline here as well. She is forced to face her own self, that's interesting for her specifically because of who Yasna is. But it's done in a way that would not be a problem for anybody except Yasna. And that's kind of what makes this version of that story so interesting, because you could tell this story of facing yourself for so many different characters, and most of the ways that you tell the story wouldn't matter. Yasna would crush all of them. It wouldn't be a problem for her. But the one way they chose to do it in this book is fascinating. It works really well. The Sanderlanche with the Bridgeman provided some very interesting and heart-wrenching storytelling, for which I am truly grateful that it was included. I am also still recovering a little bit from that, and I have now read this. I read this in December, so it's been a while since I read Wind and Truth. Shallan, I kind of don't know. I don't have much to say about her storyline here. It feels almost too small scale and worthless for what's going on everywhere else. Adolin, however, he has become the best character in Stormlight. I think he's even surpassed Kaladin in this book. Maybe not in all of Stormlight, but at least in this book, Adolin was a better character, a stronger character than Kaladin. Something that I really never expected to happen. He's grown so much and only continues to all the more in this book. He still has his struggles, and we desire really only one thing from him, and that is reconciliation. And that way his story hurts maybe most of all, but really his character and his motivations are just a shining beacon in an otherwise lackluster book. Which that's kind of that feels really harsh to say, but I agree with it. The Sanderlanche is a bit of a mess again here. It's enjoyable and terrifying, but also largely expected. I can't say there was a single thing in the book that I had not guessed was going to happen in some way or form. And obviously you can say, well, that's good foreshadowing. Yeah, there is that, but it's also, I'm not saying that he was wrong to write what we were expecting to happen, or what I was expecting to happen. I'm not going to say that at all, but it is interesting that there was very little that was unexpected to me. There's very little that surprised me about what happened or the resolutions we received. I'd even say it is a bit disappointing. Overall, the book feels like it was a bit rushed. It needed to be edited more. It no longer feels like epic and high fantasy, which is something that I was talking about in my review of of Rhythm of War, is that while a bit of middle book syndrome, it still actually felt like epic fantasy. It felt like the Stormlight Archive. But then this one has also been kind of modernized in a weird way. I enjoyed it greatly, but I also feel very apathetic about it. I'm not completely sure if I'll continue with the series or not once he comes back to it. It's going to be several years for sure, but once he comes back to it, I have no idea if I even care at that point whether I continue reading this series. It will largely depend on what I feel about his next few books. I know he's doing another Mistborn series right now. Trilogy Era 3 is what he's working on, and I'm hoping that is going to be one that is kind of a return to form where I just love every moment of it. And if that's the case, then absolutely I'll want to continue on with second half of Stormlight. But if it's something where I just don't enjoy it, there's a good chance that I won't even come back for Stormlight second half. I almost don't even care if I continue. And I think that's kind of weird. I think I like how I summed it up in my December wrap-up, which was basically Sanderson knows better. He knows that this was not the book that the quality of book that we need. The story, yes, the stories, I have no problems with the story contained herein. I have problems with the way it was written and executed. I don't feel like it was as high of quality as it should have been. It's not bad, but it's just not all that good. And the page count really does not feel earned. A satisfactory ending with a lot of Cosmere implications, but also not much in the way of an emotional response to the ending. And that apathy is kind of a bit concerning to me. Some impactful moments throughout, for sure, but the ending didn't really hit that hard in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird for me, and I still don't really know how I feel fully about this book, because there was so much that I remember being like, oh, but this is really good. This is really fun. I'm really enjoying this. And then I look back on it as a whole and I'm like, that just wasn't as incredible as I wanted it to be. And so I don't know, like, I cannot give this book a rating. When I first finished it, I didn't give it a rating on Goodreads. I didn't even give it a star rating, because I cannot reconcile what my rating for this book is. I have no idea. And it's weird. I mean, it's taken me almost 6 months now, actually. Almost 5 months now to get to my review of Wind and Truth. And with all that time and thinking about it fairly regularly, hearing other people talk about it, I don't have any resolution to my own thoughts and opinions of this book as of this moment. I don't know what I feel about it. So it's kind of interesting to me. I don't think I've ever been in this position before with any book, let alone a Sanderson book. I can usually tell what I think of a Sanderson book pretty much right off the bat. So interesting. Yeah, that's my review of Wind and Truth. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. Please comment. We do have our Discord server, or comment in the comments and let me know what you guys thought of Wind and Truth, because this is an interesting one. I'd love to hear some more feedback about this book. Love to hear some more discussion about it, because I don't know what I feel. I haven't been able to make a decision about what I think of this book as of yet. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys again soon. Stay well.